Before you built this establishment, what was your journey through fitness up until this point?
So
it's a very broad question.
It's a broad question, but it's really pretty specific for me.
Okay.
So I went through kind of one of those situations years back where I feel like the chalkboard of my life just got erased.
Okay.
And it was like one day everything was one way, and the next day everything was another way.
Sure.
And this was from a business that I was a partner in at the time, my marriage, which led to all kinds of other stuff, you know,
so
having to move and a lot of personal stuff,
sure,
all at the same time. And my reaction to that was stress eating and emotional eating.
Okay.
And so I went from being someone who I loved running and I was a relatively healthy person to somebody that I wound up not recognizing within about a year or two. And but that was the only coping mechanism that I had. Or it was the coping mechanism that I used because it was the easiest one there.
Sure, it's simple, sure.
It's simple and it's there, and I had a young son at the time, and and found myself as a single parent, so I was super busy.
Wow.
And drive-throughs are easy, convenience food is easy, and so fast forward.
Okay.
To where that came to a head. My mom had gotten very sick. She was in the hospital. They couldn't really figure out what was going on. Turned out that she had, kind of an ordinary UTI, which those can be a little concerning at times, right? They can be better or worse. But this was a pretty bad UTI, but it had just flooded through her system really quickly because she was pre-diabetic and didn't know it. So, the infection goes through the system, eating up all the sugars, and she wound up in the hospital, whereas somebody who isn't pre-diabetic probably would not end up in the hospital from a urinary tract infection. Mm-hmm. So I was in the hospital visiting her, and I was standing next to her bed, and I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking about myself and where I've gotten to at this point. And I had been, obviously was obese, I had hypertension, I had been told I was pre-diabetic, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking about her being pre-diabetic, and so am I, and that kind of family it goes from the mom to the daughter to me, then passing it to my son, and I was like, I don't want to do this. So I changed.
You turned it around.
Yep. Yeah. And the story that stands out to me more than anything is going to my internist about, I guess 9 months after I made the choice to do something different, right? After I had that experience, and he kept looking at my chart and then looking at me, looking at my chart, looking at me, and he goes, "Is this right? My previous weight?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "How did you do that?"
Yeah, that's impressive to say the least. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, and I'll tell you why he was impressed by it, but I said, "Hold on to your hat. You're not going to believe this." And he kind of got this look of fear on his face, and I said, "Diet and exercise." And he was like, "Oh, thank God." Right? And
no way.
No way. That can't possibly be. And he told me at that time, that he had multiple people per day in his office asking him, how much more weight do I have to gain to be able to get gastric bypass surgery?
Sure.
And he was kind of horrified by having to deal with people like that, because that's a super dangerous surgery.
Oh, it causes, I don't know the specifics, but everybody who has it seems like they have a lot of complications after the fact. There's so many considerations they have to
100%.
Take into account after this surgery. So it almost makes you wonder, Yeah.
Right, and your lifestyle has to be different because of that. And then also, everything involves a lifestyle change of some sort, right? And even if you have gastric bypass surgery, if your lifestyle doesn't change, that's a short-term solution.
That's true.
And it's a pretty intense short-term solution.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I had done. I had made this decision. I put an app on my phone.
Yeah.
This is my initiation into fitness.
Okay.
Right? I put an app on my phone. I started counting my calories, and I walked out the front door and went for a walk every day. And then I could run, and I ran every day. And then I went in the gym and was looking at the guy's side of the gym, and I'm not going to go over there, you know, and I had to be coaxed into strength training. And oh my God. So I was about 40 years old.
Wow.
When this happened.
Yeah.
Right? And so don't ask me how old I am now.
No, it's okay. No, I won't. But regardless, you figured it all out by yourself. You really did.
So I'm not going to say by myself. I mean, there were certainly lots of people along the way, because when you're going through a transformation like that and you're in a public place, I went to the Y every single day for years, and I got to know all kinds of people, and, you know, so there's, you know, your average people in the gym that are there every day, your average bros,
Your
right?
average bro, that's right. And we have a Y where we go, and it is funny because you see the same people, and you know the clientele that goes there and everything, and you get used to it. But it's comfortable. It really is. It's so comfortable.
It's so comfortable, and you learn, they're like, it becomes your family in a lot of ways. And so I got a lot of advice and hands up from a lot of people there. And then there were trainers that, you know, helped.
The Planet Fitness trainers and the YMCA trainers are like, they're good, but you don't know what you're getting sometimes.
Exactly.
Not to diss on them. I worked at the YMCA, I worked at Planet Fitness, and you see what you see, and it's like, okay, you know, sometimes it's good. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I had and I'm picturing that in my head, like the people that I worked with at the Y that were awesome, and the people that I worked with that were like, continuing education is a thing. Like, please delve into that a little bit more.
Do that. Yeah.
But anyway, I got hurt. Right?
Okay.
I got hurt pretty bad a couple times, and I was like, what am I doing wrong?
Doing strength training, doing the weights? Okay.
Yeah, because as soon as I could, you know, when I realized what I was capable of, I was hooked, like, immediately.
You kind of unleash it. You sort of start trying new things, and you realize what you're able to do. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Right, or you would read all the time, like, you know, you should lift heavy weight. Well, in my mind, I'm like, oh, heavy weight. Okay, that must be hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So because I got hurt and I got super frustrated about being hurt, I decided I need to be certified as a trainer, because I need to be able to help myself, because I'm not getting help outside of here where I am. Right.
Yeah.
So I did that, and, you know, I'm a relatively intelligent person.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I did this certification. I loved it. And then, you know, since then I've done a lot more certifications. I'm a huge proponent of continuing education. You know, I don't have a master's. You're talking about having a master's, and
but the application side of things is so different from the academic. You know,
yes,
you can sit there and you conduct studies, you learn all that stuff, but then you go out into the world and talk to people like you, and you had to get to that point where, you know, you've already understood fitness until the point where you did get certified.
Right.
So, you figured it out.
Right. There's 1,000 ways that lead to the same destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as soon as I was certified, I was like, okay, well, now I have enough information to hurt somebody, and I don't want to hurt anybody.
Pain.
Right. Yeah. That it's not all about, like, how heavy is your deadlift, right?
That's
There's
true.
just, like, the practical application of fitness is so far from that. It's crazy. It's fun when it does get to be that.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, at the Y, I thought, oh, okay, well, this is great. Because as soon as I was certified, of course, they're like, oh, when can you start? We want to hire you.
Waving the package in front of you, like, sign it now.
Do it. I'm like, okay. You know, and
Did you train at the Y?
I did train at the Y. That was my first job. Okay. And I expected to have all this support, and, you know,
sure.
That wound up not being the case. I was handed a file of this woman who was about 75 years old, who couldn't get out of a car. She was just practically immobile.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like a deer in headlights. I wasn't sure what to do. and I figured it out.
Yeah.
And within, 3 months, she was lunging and getting up and down off the floor and able to do all these things. But I was very conservative. And so having the knowledge that I was, had enough knowledge to be dangerous in a situation like that, of course, I, hired a trainer for myself, which I had never done before. I had just relied on the people at the Y.
Yeah.
And I hired a guy who was great. And I learned a lot from him. And he said, hey, check out, Owen Cosgrove and Rachel Cosgrove, and check out, check out Perform Better, and that kind of stuff.
Good one too. I've heard of that. Yeah.
And I learned a lot about functional fitness, and it made so much sense. And just to me, like, if you can't get up and down out of a chair, well, then you practice getting up and down out of a chair.
Yeah.
If you can't lunge by yourself, then you lunge with support.
You practice lunging, yeah.
Right. So I just did all these regressions based on the limited knowledge that I had, and it turned out that, that those kind of things worked. And then, then I had this other resource, and then I started following a handful of trainers online that I still follow to this day that I love, that I've learned a lot
Shout
from
out
there.
to Tony Gentlecore.
Tony Gentlecore, Dean Somerset I love, and Eric Cressy I followed. And, I don't have any baseball players in the gym, but, his content is
it's all this wonderful performance-based stuff. Yeah.
And smart.
It is. Yeah. But do you think too that, that there's training at the YMCA, you start to realize that there is an importance with like pairing up with the right client and having like the right person there that matches like your energy and everything as a trainer?
So my way of dealing with that is kind of through the back door of what you just said, where I match my energy level and what I'm bringing to the table to the person that I'm working with.
Perfect.
But that's not to say that
that there's some consideration to it. Yeah.
So do I enjoy when somebody comes along that jives
Has
with
that
me?
motivation? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh
my God, it's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what I do is I hate to use the word tedious, but it can be.
Yeah.
Because I wound up with a lot of people who had, injury and recovery issues and things that, bring your PT paperwork with you and we'll figure it out from there. But yeah, so yes, if you match with a client, it's the best feeling in the world, the energy level and that kind of thing. But in a market this small, in a city this small, I kind of feel like I have to be sort of a chameleon in that regard for the clients that I have. And
I'll ask you this too, not being from here and sort of getting a feel for the gym culture in the week that I'm here and everything. Is it harder or easier, do you think, to open up a gym here as compared to other places? I don't know if you have anything to compare it to, but the process, it seems like there's a big push for gyms like this in this particular area. So it seems like that the market would be open to you doing something like this.
So after I left the Y, I went to a smaller area.
Okay.
But also a community center. And so I'm getting to a point with this, but so it went from this, this big to this big, and now to here.
So you kind of kept specializing it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and I do think that one, that has a lot to do with COVID.
Yeah.
It was just.
Did you grow during COVID?
So let me tell you, it was the reason why I'm here is because of COVID.
Okay.
So we were talking about this one day, a bunch of us that were here about the positives that came out of COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
And there are some.
There are some.
Yeah.
For me, I would not have opened this gym if I hadn't had to.
Yeah.
Essentially. So, I always worked as an independent contractor at a facility.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, they were like, "Hey, Michelle, sorry, but we're closing in a couple hours, and we'll, see you when we see you." And I was like,
okay.
What?
But that did happen too. When you think back at it, I remember the same thing. Everything just kind of shut down without a warning, and you were left to catch up to everything, and you're like, what just happened?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and I was one of the people that was like, "Oh, come on, we'll just space the mats, 6 feet apart. Don't worry about it." Like,
not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea, but
idea.
then as soon as the pandemic really took off, I was like, "Wow, none of us expected that."
No, it was completely blindsided.
Completely
blindsided.
True. So
it's true.
Yeah. So because I worked at a facility as an independent contractor, I wasn't in a position where I could go, "Hey, you guys, let's give you some equipment. We'll start doing things online." It was, do you have a full milk jug and just things that were not
really helpful, is what you're saying.
It
Things
wasn't
that
really
you had to be real kind of separate from them, I guess. You had to do things that were different. Yeah.
It wasn't going to happen that I could borrow equipment from them. It didn't work out that way. So, we adapted to, we do driveway workouts. We started doing an outdoor boot camp that, started with about 5 people and grew to about 20 by the end of the summer. It was literally the best summer I have ever had. We were outside, working. It did not matter what the weather was. We had found a park where there was a pavilion, a big enough overhang, and we would get there and move all the tables. And, if it was raining, we'd work out anyway under the pavilion.
So many people approached it that way.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and it was kind of hard to determine when that was acceptable, because a lot of trainers were trying to do the outdoor thing, but then people were hesitant because of of COVID and everything. So it's like you almost hit it. You had to hit it at sort of the right time. You're like, okay, we can do it now. Let's go. We need to work out now. But cool. And so the design of this place caters to that sort of strength training, resistance training focus, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. And I see it. It's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing outdoors.
Yeah.
We crawled backwards up hills and pulled sleds and did all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. I mean, the back of my car is practically dragging on the ground with hundreds of pounds of equipment in there but that's that's what we do.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
We weren't going to go do jumping jacks. I mean, what fun is that, right?
Yeah.
So,
which is not traditionally what trainers are doing, which is what you did, if finding a way to adapt to resistance training to maybe an outdoor workout is kind of the secret sauce, I guess.
Right. So I guess the part of that that's missing is that the people that I started that boot camp with were a bunch of people that came to classes, like fitness classes, but didn't do personal training or strength training.
Yeah.
So it was funny, it was actually really amazing getting to have these people that were cardio nuts.
Yeah.
That were like, oh, I don't want to pick up the weight. It's gonna and then they had to.
Yeah.
And the transformations that some of them went through.
Probably pretty drastic.
It was drastic, and it was like such like a feather in the cap to me, because I've been saying this stuff for years, but people don't. They won't do what they
set in their
they're
ways.
set in their ways.
And
so here we are at this kind of ritzy community center with a bunch of girls that are not used to being kind of
yoked. Yeah.
Yes,
jacked.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or tough, and that was a hard sell, and so this it did it, and it was. I think that's one of the reasons why it wound up being so fun.
That's amazing.
So then when the weather started to turn, we're like, where are we going to go?
Yeah, we need a place.
And, my boyfriend who I've been with for years, who's amazing, said, you got to open a gym. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And he was like, I pretty much think you have
yes,
to.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. And I was like, okay. And then, that's how this came to be. That's how this came to be. And,
so for anybody looking to maybe follow that path and open up a gym, it kind of makes sense that you would have to develop some sort of support system, I guess. So you developed the class. You had the people that already knew who you were and what your benefit was, I guess. So I imagine that translated to this gym. Maybe they didn't help you build the facility, but it was, you did all that yourself. But But you had people who could vouch for you. You had people who could maybe bring some people your way.
Some people my way, right. So it was nice because I got to, even when the other gym reopened, which is, 6 miles from here, which doesn't seem like much, but it's, it's a drive for some
Yeah,
people.
it's a decent way. Yeah.
6 minutes, sorry, like 12 miles from here.
6 miles a bike.
You gotta hop on the highway, right?
Yeah.
So they all still support me, which means the world to me.
That's so cool.
So we had like the group of class goers, and then all the driveway workout people were people who were strength training clients, personal training clients. So they're here, and then new people from.
So they did follow you.
The neighborhood. Yes, I lucked out. Yeah.
Good. That's amazing.
Well, I say I lucked out. I'm sure.
Well,
there's something that goes along with that, but yeah.
There's a process that you did follow to at least have some jump in clientele when you started this place.
Yeah.
So just to bring people in.
Well, and it's funny because that side of things, like I can teach you how to put or pick up heavy stuff, and put it back down without hurting yourself all day long, and I love that. But as soon as I have to like market and be on Instagram and stuff like that, it's like it's just
pain in the ass. It's annoying.
It's something that that doesn't come naturally. Like it's not like, oh yeah, I got to sit down and do this now. So I've had to really, marketing is a huge factor.
It's your tool.
Right. If you don't market, you don't get anybody coming in the door. And, when you're on a budget, like, I do remember reading something that Tony Gentilcourt said one time about opening the studio that he has and talking about, like, whatever you think your budget needs to be to open that, double it. And so the money that I actually was able to get a small business loan.
Oh, good.
Because of, COVID. A lot of those things were much easier than they otherwise would have been.
Appeared to be, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is plenty of money. Oh, my goodness.
You're like,
it was not.
No.
I was like, that whole thing about doubling what you think you need is absolutely true. And that's almost exactly what happened here. But so that part of it, and, just all the knowledge and finances that go into putting up walls and building a bathroom, like you wouldn't think that is difficult, and there's just so much more. Like, how come I have to have like blueprints drawn up by an actual licensed architect to put a bathroom in? Like, and
so you really have, so you got to lay it out, you got to show them what you're doing. Wow. So it's
a huge learning experience for me, and because my boyfriend is a business owner. I had a lot of help.
That's awesome. So he kind of understood
things.
A little bit.
Yeah, he understood the process a lot better than I did as a total newbie. And so I would say, why is this happening? He's like, oh, that happens with every business.
I feel like there's always like some regulation you have to fall into, and you got to like do something. It's like, oh yeah, we forgot. You got to do this too. You got to tell us about this. And you're like, okay. Fine.
I put my logo on the window, and then I got in trouble. And I was like, what did I do? And they're like, you have to have a permit for that. And so now we're fining you. And I was like, okay.
Okay. Was it a bad fine, or was it?
It wasn't terrible, but
But still, it's like, but it's a business.
It's
you need a logo. Yeah.
Right. And
wow. Okay.
So permits, like red tape, anything that has to do with the city's ability to collect money for it, they'll
probably take advantage of that.
They'll take advantage of that, and so you just
happily
have to
deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to just roll with it, I guess.
So you got to roll with that.
Okay.
So, and then the only other thing that was such a huge issue during COVID was it didn't occur to me ever that it would be hard to get equipment, and equipment was scarce.
Awful.
Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't know personally, but I knew from people telling me, Facebook Marketplace ran out. You go to, like, that's where everybody goes to get the bargain cheap equipment, and it ran out. Nobody was selling anything. So
there was nothing.
Even get it.
Yeah, and then, even some of the suppliers here, like, even now, it's still hard to get stuff. I mean, it's easier than it was, but certain things that are not as popular are harder to come by.
A lot of supply chain issues and everything. But you did manage to sort of obviously get the equipment you needed. Yeah,
I did. I have the Island of Misfit kettlebells, which I've learned to kind of love.
I noticed that too. I was looking at your wall of kettlebells. I'm like, you managed to get the right weights, and you managed to line them up properly. But they're all different brands.
Well,
and
I'm a little
kinds.
OCD, and so it shows there. And that hole where the plug for the fan is by
That's-
design. So yeah, that's on purpose. But
Okay.
yeah.
Is there supposed to be another kettlebell there?
There's not.
Okay.
No.
But still though, I guess it's just a kettlebell, so
It's-
nobody's
yeah.
going to be like, "Whoa, why is this different from the rest of them?" Like it's a piece of metal. It's a hunk of metal.
It's
and
a
you got
hunk
some
of metal.
you got some heavy dumbbells here too, I noticed.
Yeah.
I really don't see that usually in a studio.
Really?
Yeah, no, not really. No.
Oh.
Yeah.
When we were
if you can
moving
believe it.
in, so my some of the bandmates from my boyfriend's band were helping, and one of the guys was struggling with one of the 70-pound dumbbells, and he was like, "Who
Future
is ever
client.
going to use this for anything?" Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You would think, but he
There you
wanted
go.
nothing to do with it.
Well, there you go. Jeez. And then what's that orange thing right there attached to the dumbbell? Is that just
So
that
those
just helps
are no, they're supposed to mimic a kettlebell. So you're supposed to be able to, take that handle,
Okay.
put it on a dumbbell and use it like a kettlebell, which obviously is not going to happen because the width of that is completely different. It's sort of hilarious, but it's just really good for loaded carries.
I feel like if they
Yeah.
just turned the handle around,
It would be a lot
it would
better.
be a lot better.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
because you got to. Yeah, it's probably a pain in the ass to get through your legs being as wide
You really
as it is.
can't. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
God. Well, there you go.
Isn't that hilarious?